Okay, now let's review how to do homework 3 part 2. So in the simulation, this simulation exercise, what you have to do is that you will have to generate or simulate the total revenue, which is, there are 3 parts of the revenue. There are cash, bond, and stock. And for the cost, you have auto claims, iPhone claims, and earthquake claims, right? And once you have the total revenue, you compute the total revenue right here, and then you compute the total cost right here. You subtract revenue from the cost, and you'll get the profit. Okay? You will have to do simulations 10,000 times. In this exercise, I only do 1,000 times, but it should be very easy extension for you from 1,000 to 10,000. Okay? I already simulated bond returns 10,000 times right here in column C, and I'm going to show you how to do the simulations for stock returns. And essentially they're the same thing, so you can do, once you can do stock, you can do bonds. Okay, so to do stock return simulation 1,000 times, what you have to do is that you go to data analysis, choosing a random number generations. Then essentially you will have to choose how many number of variables that you want to simulate, and in this case you want to simulate one random variable, right? So that's why I put 1, and you want to do that 1,000 times. And in your case you do 10,000 times, so you would put 1,000 or 10,000 right here. Okay, and as for the distribution, since you are given the distribution for the stock returns, so you would choose discrete right here. Okay, and once you choose discrete, then you will ask to put parameters, which in this case will be the distribution table. Okay, and the distribution table, I paste the distribution table for the stock return over here. Okay, in the same worksheet, so I would just highlight all the way down. Okay, and then you will have to choose output range, which I want my simulation result to be shown in cell E4. Okay, let me do it one more time. So I'm gonna highlight the stock returns. Okay, and for output, I want it to show in cell E4. Alright, so once you have everything set up, you just hit OK. And then you can see that you will have simulated stock returns 10,000 times in column E. Okay, now I want to change it to percentages. And there you go. Now, to get a total revenue, what you have to do is that since the total revenue equals to cash plus the bond value at year end and the stock value at year end, right? So first you have cash. So cash is started with $100 million. So it's going to be $100 million no matter what, right? Because cash is not going to change the value. And for the bond, you can see that sometimes it can yield a negative 2%, sometimes it can yield 0%, 1%, 1%, negative 1%, negative 1.5%, so on and so forth. Depends on the distribution probability, right? Now, to get the value at year end, you would just need to use the finance knowledge, which means that you're going to start with $70 million at the beginning of the year, then multiply with the returns, right? And I just use the future value formula to get the bond value at year end. You do that 10,000 times, right? And for the stock, you would do the same thing, which means that you started with $20 million, multiply with the interest rate that you will earn over the year, and then you get 10,000 bond values and stock values 1,000 times. All right, and for total revenue, of course, it's going to be cash plus bond plus stock, and then you're going to get total revenues, right? So these are all the simulated revenues 1,000 times, and in your case you get 10,000 times. Alright, so that was the revenue. Now let's look at the cost, right? So you know that there are three components of the cost. Because you start an insurance company, you will pay out your insured people, policyholders, and you're selling three policies, right? Three types of policies. You're selling auto insurance, you're selling iPhone insurance, and you're also selling earthquake insurance, right? And you know that auto claims, the number of claims will follow Poisson distribution with lambda 15,000, and you know that the iPhone claims, the number of claims will follow Poisson distribution with lambda 50,000, and you know that the earthquake claims, the number of the claims follow binomial 5,000 and 70% probability of success. Okay, I'm going to show you how to simulate the number of claims for the iPhone and for the earthquake. For the auto, I already showed it for you. Okay, now for the iPhone, what you have to do is essentially the same thing. So you would just go to data analysis, random number generation. You would want to simulate one random variable, okay, for the iPhone 1,000 times in this case. And instead of choosing discrete distribution, which is for an arbitrary distribution, right? But now it's a pattern distribution, which is the Poisson distribution. And the lambda in this case is 50,000. Output, you want to simulate your result in J4, right? Once you have everything set up, hit OK, and then you can get all the simulated claims, right? Sometimes you can get 50,255 claims. Sometimes you might get 49,701 claims, so on and so forth, right? And you would essentially do the same thing for the number of earthquake claims, but this time it's not the Poisson distribution, it is a binomial distribution. So you simulate one random variable 1,000 times with a binomial distribution, right? P is 0.7, number of trial is 5,000, and you want your output to be in L4. There you go. So once you get all these, then you have to compute the total cost, right? So the total cost comes from the dollar amount that you pay for auto insurance claims, for iPhone claims, and for earthquake claims, right? So for each auto insurance claim, you would pay out $5,000 no matter what. So essentially, you just multiply this with 5,000, and then you get the number of dollar value that you would pay out for the auto insurance, right? You do essentially the same thing for the iPhone, but for the iPhone, for each claim, you would pay $700, right? So you would just multiply this with 700, and for each earthquake insurance, you would pay $50,000. So multiply this with $50,000. Okay, and once you get the total amount for each claim, you would sum them all up to get the total claim. So it's going to be this plus this guy, right? And once you get, and then you're going to get all the total claim amount, which will be your total cost. For the profit, basically, is just the revenue minus the cost, right? So essentially what you have to do is that you have to subtract the cost from the revenue. This minus this equals to profit. So I designed the homework carelessly, so I get negative profit, but it shouldn't matter. Okay, so you get all the negative profits right here. And once you get all the profits, then the next step is to use this to do the analysis, right? You can use this to draw a histogram. You can use this to compute the average simulated profit. You can use this to compute this standard deviation of the profits, so on and so forth. Okay, I'm gonna show you how. So now you get the profit. Let me hide these guys. I can draw a histogram. So I highlight them all up, then I click on the histogram, and now I can get the histogram for the profit, right? So I can see that the profit cluttered around this. Okay, so it should be the mean of it should be about negative $95 million. Okay, and then I can rename my histogram. Okay, and I can compute the mean value, standard deviation of the simulated profit. Okay, so the mean is just the average, right? So I can use average function to compute the average profit. The average is about negative $95 million, and the standard deviation. So remember that any simulated results is a sample statistics. So you have to use a sample statistics formula in order to compute the summary statistics, right? So for standard deviation, obviously you have to use the sample standard deviation, which in Excel is stdev.s. Okay, and there you go. Now you can get your simulated profit. Thank you for listening.